Today, the Quantum Questions podcast on the subject of what is addiction, Lucy Pattinson will be interviewing Liam Browne. Lucy is the creator of the Who Am I series and the co-founder of the Quantum Questions. She has also been a breath coach for over 30 years, leading seminars and running a private practice. Liam Browne is the author of the book From Dealer to Healer. Liam has overcome his own addictions to alcohol and drugs and is now a life coach helping others with their own battles in this area. If you'd like to know more about the Quantum Questions, please go to the website www.thequantumquestions.com.
Hi, I'm Lucy, and I'd like to welcome all our listeners to the Quantum Questions podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Today, I'm really excited to have Liam Browne here talking about the huge subject of what is addiction. And Liam has had a very personal journey in this subject, writing the book From Dealer to Healer, which is an amazing read. And he's also now a life coach, teaching others how to battle this subject and beyond, not just in this subject. He also is a yoga teacher, and he has his own unique style with that. I think weekly he does something called a yoga rave, which one day I would love to attend. So, Liam, welcome to the Quantum Questions. Really great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So I've had my own personal dealings with this subject with people very close to me and my family. So I've seen it from the other side. And for me, it's completely baffling how someone can ruin their lives with substances. It makes no sense. I cannot get my head in. And maybe that's true for all people that are not addicted to substances. They cannot understand it.
But I think that everybody's addicted to something, and sometimes it's like a friend of mine has been addicted to nicotine, and since he was 13, and he's tried and he can't break it, and in some ways it's actually, well, at least it's not one of the worst things that he's addicted to. Do you know what I mean? But it's still the same mental. It's the same mental agitation. It's the same illness. But I used to joke with him. I'm like, why do you get addicted to something that's more fun, like cocaine or crack? At least then you'll hit the floor, and you might come out of your addiction. Do you know what I mean? You'll heal your addiction. But I think with mild things like tobacco, like shopping, like sex is a bit less mild. But with those things, because it's more accepted by society and it doesn't have such a kind of negative knock-on effect to all those around you, that it's not seen as much of an addiction, but it's still the same. It's the same thing, and to understand it is to realize that that it is an illness. It's like, and it's a very, if somebody's got something wrong with the lung, you can't see it. If somebody's an addict to crack, cocaine, heroin, alcohol, you see it, and even with alcohol, there's so many functioning alcoholics, there's so many dysfunctioning alcoholics, but society accepts that in a way. And then you've got the people who it's really a problem, but we have so many alcoholics, especially in this country, who are suffering with addiction. But it usually with a lot of things, it's just to cover up pain, mental agitation, things that happened to us when we were younger, and it's for us to go on a journey to heal that, or to find something else, like a practice or a meditation or a more spiritual life, to really heal it and have something more positive to focus our energy on.
But what is it that can make someone look at their previous traumas? Because a lot of people just will actually kill themselves, go as far as killing themselves with addictive behavior. What was the spark for you personally to look at your world in a completely different way?
Well, I wouldn't say I was a heavy duty addict, but when I started doing the 12-step program and going to AA and NA, it was to stop me going to prison, basically. But my life was out of control and unmanageable, which is definitely a trait of people with on these programs at CA, NA on a 12-step program. And then when I went to that, I started to realize that I did have problems with substances, and they'd always been part of my life. So I think hitting rock bottom is very important. You know, like you get a lot of people who are trying, like they've got friends with addictions, they've got friends with problems, and they're trying to help them. Actually, you can't help anyone, they can only help themselves. Help from a third party doesn't exist. That should be classed as support. And I try and step away from that with all my teachings and other teachers that come to me, to my events, to my practices. I always try and reprogram the word help, because the person can only help themselves. We can support them. And sometimes the best support we can give somebody is let them hit rock bottom, let them get to that first suicide attempt, because then that can eventually be the wake-up call that they need. Yeah, some people we might lose, but there needs to be, for me, when I was going to counselling, I was seeing people who had been in this state for like 40 years. And I was like, I'm giving myself 3 years. I can't handle this. If I've not sorted myself out in 3 years, I'm going to commit suicide, because what's the point of living a life like that for 40 years? It was so uncomfortable. I was crawling in my own skin. I felt disgusting. I hated myself. Nothing was positive from a past, present, future. And it was vile being inside my body. And I was like, I'm not going to be like that for 40 years. That's horrendous. Like, I put myself out of my misery. For me, it was like, you know, going and getting your dog put down. I'd be doing myself a favor by checking out. But, you know, then I was really determined. And once you've got that determination to heal, to find the reasons for your agitation, to find the reasons for your behavior, to start taking some responsibility for your behavior, which is the most important thing. Nobody wants to take responsibility. Everybody wants to blame this person. Oh, what about my upbringing? Oh, I had these circumstances. Oh, it was worse for me. It's like, they're the best things. When you actually go on a path, they're the things that turn you into a magnificent human. And you have to think, fucking hell, I'm so blessed that I was born with these really terrible life situations that made me grow to such an amazing human so quickly. Because if I'd had a lovely childhood where everything was provided, like people were really nice to me, I was in a loving environment, how can I then support other people that are struggling? It's a lot more difficult to come from, like the lotus flower that blossoms out of the swamp of shit. That's what we're supposed to be. So it's actually just use whatever. There's nothing negative. There's nothing bad that's happened to you in your life. It's a point to grow from that you can turn into something beautiful. So then once you realize that, the thing isn't bad. The thing is beautiful.
So, but what I'm really interested in, Liam, is, so what was the catalyst for you coming out of the mud? Was it going to NA, and you said CA? Is that cocaine addiction?
Yeah.
Was that the catalyst?
Cocaine Anonymous, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. The thing that triggered it for me was, you know, my mum died. I was questioning a lot of stuff with that, and then I was nearly going to prison. I was thinking I was going to go to prison for like quite a while. So I really had to I really was determined to get my shit together. And when my mum died, it was almost like because I was living in London at the time. When I lived in London and she lived in Manchester, she couldn't see what I was up to. When she died, I was more aware of her and thought that she was potentially could see what I was doing or feel what I was doing.
Interesting.
So I felt this more like I was being watched, and I needed to up my game to really honor her spirit, honor her life, honor how much she meant to me, by making subtle changes. And I was trying, but getting arrested and nearly going to prison was like, the shake that I needed, the real kind of, right, now is the time to step up.
Yeah, amazing. So that was more the wake-up call than going to the AA stuff.
Yeah, they were the major shakes, and then stuff started to shift and cognitively change within my behavior and within my own mind through the 12-step program. I was still determined to not have a spiritual awakening at any point. I was like, I'm not having a spiritual awakening. I'm not changing my life. I just want to be happier, and I want to stop using drink and drugs.
Yeah, amazing. I went to Al-Anon for quite a while, being close to someone who is an alcoholic. And I could never quite get my head around this thing where you say, I am an alcoholic or I am a drug addict for the rest of your life, even if you haven't touched it for 20 years. I know people still saying that. I find that really bizarre. Is it healthy? I don't know.
Because it's to admit what you are. It's like, I'm a heterosexual Mancunian. It's just it's a fact. You don't lose this illness. It's always there. If you stop doing your practices, that's what you will go back to.
So you think that really is for the rest of your life?
Yeah, if you stop using the practices and you go back to, if you go and have a drink, or you start, I'm just going to have a drink socially, and you stop the practices, it will eventually lead you back to that really negative, wherever you were before, it will lead you back there. So to reiterate that all the time is to remember, honor what you are, honor your illness. Your illness hasn't gone away. You're just finding practices to control it, medicate it, not through medication, through cognitive processes. So yeah, it's just to reinforce. It's like, this is who I am.
I really find it hard to believe that, like, if you did profound spiritual practices for 15 years, that wouldn't then take you to a completely different level where you wouldn't have to then say, I'm an alcoholic, when you haven't drunk for 15 years. Do you think even that is not?
Probably, I guess they probably wouldn't, but when you're going to a meeting, that's part of a meeting, because there's people there who've just started, you know what I mean? They need to be saying that. But you might get somebody, but people will say it, like, I've got a friend who's 13 years clean. He still says, I'm an alcoholic. And
I know people like that too. Yeah.
If I start drinking again, my life will spiral out of control. So for me to remember what the consequences are, I think it's also mentally to just reiterate, like, this is what I am. If I start changing my behavior, I can go back to that quite easily, which I don't want to do.
Yeah.
People don't have to use it. I don't say it about myself. Yeah.
So you feel this really does come from childhood traumas, and I think there's a very high statistic, something like 50% of children of an addict become an addict. But what interests me is 50% don't become an addict. So what do you think it is?
Genetics, biology, why is somebody born in a slum in India and becomes a world-renowned writer and poet, where his brother and sister remain in the slum? It's just it's just genetics. It's past karmas, it's past life experiences that have born you into these situations to inspire others. The lotus flower, again, you can come from anywhere and be anything you want. Like, it's just, and two people lose the job, get made redundant. One goes, what am I going to do? The other's like, oh man, I can live my dream now. I've got this thing that I've been wanting. It's forced me into this. It's all perspectives. I've got two friends. I've got a friend who was adopted. His mum and dad died in a car crash. He was adopted, him and his brother into a rich family, and my friend really excelled and has done amazingly well, where his brothers always felt like they didn't deserve that. Like, why have, and still kind of on that stuck in the idea of losing his family, but then also stuck with living with these rich people that are trying to look after him and not being able to accept it. You know, there's always different ways to go and different characters of who we are. We know, you know, we're not all born the same. We're not all born with the karmic path. You know, we've not all had the same past lifetimes that have allowed us to grow as a soul.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk too personally about mine because I don't want to sort of name and shame anyone, that people close to me. But, you know, as seeing young people around addiction, I was quite aware of this thing, how some could become addicts themselves and some could not through influence.
Yeah.
And I really struggled with it. And I don't think I helped in any way. And it almost like things took their own path or are taking their own path.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see, very hard to watch, and very hard, as you say, to let someone go rock bottom. You know, if you love someone, it's excruciating to start thinking about that. And
Yeah,
I sometimes would let someone almost, you know, start going there, and then I just couldn't let them go the whole way. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, but then in some ways, to love them is to let them go there.
Yeah.
Because by helping them, stopping them reaching rock bottom, you know, you're stopping them reaching rock bottom. You need to get there. A lot of people need to get there. It's like everything's fucked, everything's destroyed. Right, okay. Either I wake up or I check out. You know, they're the options at that point. And from people helping, you're just perpetually supporting them in their dysfunctional behavior for however many years, for the rest of their life potentially. I've got a friend who works in the Priory in South Manchester, and she's like, you know, at the moment there's so many rich families sending their kids who are, you know, addicted to ketamine, addicted to other drugs, a lot of ketamine with young people at the moment, and just sending their kids to the Priory to get fixed. And the kids are just going there, don't really want to, are not bothered, but just to make the parents happy. And the parents think they're doing a good thing by sending them to the Priory, whereas actually they probably would have done a good thing by giving them a cuddle since they've been a child, you know, giving them love, just spending time with them. Like a lot of people who've got that amount of money to throw at something usually are away from their child, have not had that closeness because they're busy with their life, they're busy with companies, whatever it is. And then they go, okay, I don't want to face that. My son or daughter's a drug addict, I'll just throw money at it. You know, there's the thing with the aristocrats of like how many aristocratic children become heroin addicts, because there's such a blockage with the family, you know. I can't there's a name for it, isn't there? I can't remember. There's a saying about that. I can't remember. There's a name for people who've become heroin and crack addicts who've got aristocratic or very wealthy parents.
I wonder though if the proportion percentage-wise of people with wealthy parents or poorer parents is actually the same. It's just wealthier people can afford a different price of drug in a way, can't they?
I guess they can stay alive for longer because they get a better quality.
Yeah. I mean, I lived in Manhattan during the crack era, which was just the most revolting drug, and was cheap. Really horrible. Anyway, Liam, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you know, we always talk about the negative side of addiction, but people do have real spiritual experiences with drugs, don't they? And can you see a positive side to being a drug addict, for example?
No, I don't see a positive side to being an addict with anything.
That's it. Yeah.
No, there's no positive side. It's destructive. It's taking up all your thoughts. Your mind's not clear. You're not present. There's no positives. I feel there's positives with drug use, recreationally. For me, every drug that I used growing up, I had an experience and an awakening of some element of whether it was my creativity, whether like for me, ecstasy totally opened my heart for the first time. You know, me and my friends started hugging each other, and we're from a council estate in Manchester. All you did was shake hands with men. Do you know what I mean? You didn't hug your mates. We all started hugging. We were all having conversations about things that we'd been pent up about for years between each other. But then it got to the fact, and I had beautiful experiences on ecstasy, beautiful connections with people, beautiful connections with partners, amazing sex with ecstasy, like little families that you'd create at festivals. But then it became, when you start using it regularly all the time, and it's like 4 or 5 times a week, you start deteriorating a little bit, and it becomes negative, and you still can have elements of that heart opening experience, but you're more like depressed between when you're taking it. You have really low come downs where you want to kill yourself for a couple of days. So it's like, it kind of, it becomes very negative once you start abusing it.
Yeah, I've spoken to alcoholics. They don't even enjoy alcohol anymore, actually. You know, they used to in the early days, and now it's just this thing they have to do without the pleasure. It's
bad habits and choices. But
and
there's a lot of support out there for people. There's no excuse. And you know, the 12-step program is such an amazing program, but a lot of people are not prepared to it's like, oh, if I stop drinking, then I'm going to lose all my friends. Do you know what I mean? Well, what's more important for you to be healthy and to be nice to your family around you and to stay alive, or to be around your friends who, you know, you've got to really, really change a lot of aspects of your life. Yeah, when you've got the whatever substance it is under control, maybe you can go back and see those people and be in your power and make them know that you are not using anymore. But until you're at that space, you need to be away from those people. And if they're your friends, they'll understand and they'll want what's best for you.
Yeah. It's been hugely successful, hasn't it, the 12-step program? I've seen other people try different things, including rehab, but it seems like AA just keep going, and they've got a system that works.
Totally, yeah. And it's all Buddhist, really. When you read it, and then it's so connected to Buddhism, and just like, you know, realizing there's a lot of suffering, making an inventory. Forgiveness is massive with the 12 steps.
Connecting to God, isn't it?
Yeah, connecting to God, and that's massively difficult for a lot of people. I'm not getting into any of that God shit. I'm not. And I remember going to my first meeting, and he was like, I'm from a council estate, so but these meetings were in London, but there was these, you know, proper London geezers at these meetings, big blokes, must look like a lot of people that I grew up with, how they look now. And I was like, I'd go gold teeth and scars and stuff, and I was like, all right, these are geezers, and these are saying these prayers. And this guy come up to me, and he had a couple of gold teeth, and he was like, oh mate, I saw how freaked out you got at the God bit then. He said it doesn't have to be God like as you perceive it. It can be like the universe, or if you've got someone who's died, then just something, just to admit that there's something bigger than you out there.
Yeah.
Like just look up at the stars and go, wow, there's something out there, you know, there's something that's more intelligent than me, that's more intelligent than this earth, to just open up to that. And so when I see these big geezers doing that, I'm like, okay, right, I can get down on my knees and not feel like an idiot in the morning, you know. But at the time, that was really difficult for me. And it was really difficult for me to do it around people, around my girlfriend. I felt really embarrassed.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I felt really embarrassed saying the word God. And now I'll probably say the word God too much, you know, because it embarrasses other people. But it's like, to flip that word of like, it doesn't have to be God. It can be like source energy, infinite consciousness, great spirit, the universe. It can be any of those things. But sometimes it's just easier to say God.
Yeah, I've been with someone that really struggled with that, kneeling down, praying. Was it once or twice a day, I think? And it is
But you have
also,
to get,
it's an act
yeah,
of humility as well, isn't it? Doing that.
it's an act of surrender as well, of just like, I'm not I'm not doing a very good job of this. Can someone else please support me?
Yeah.
And you have to, and you know, when you say the serenity prayer every day, and the serenity prayer is a beautiful, beautiful prayer. You know, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Like,
Yeah, that's
so many
amazing.
people are getting tied up in their minds about things they have no control over,
Yeah.
totally no control over. I'm like, you're just wasting energy,
Yeah.
totally wasting energy. So it's a beautiful prayer, but also just like, yeah, addicts go to it. For me, everybody should do the 12-step program.
Yeah.
Everybody. Like, just do it. You're not an addict, go and do it, because it will have a positive impact on your life. A
Yeah, I
positive
can
impact.
believe that, Liam. You know, when I looked at what the 12 steps were, I thought, oh my God, these are beautiful. And then when you do everything about making amends with all the people in your life, we should all do that. You know.
Super powerful, so powerful. Yeah. It was just like, it was it was one of the biggest parts of my spiritual awakening, my awakening to myself, my awakening to really trying to be a better person. And, you know, I still fuck up now and again, but I can fuck up and I can step back and look at it and see my behavior and go, right, and I've got a bit of work to do on that situation, you know, or whatever it may be.
And did
So
you completely stop then all drugs after the 12-step program?
I did for a long time. And now after I think it was 3, 4 years of abstinence from everything. Like, I'd go in the pub still, because a lot of my mates got a pub, all my mates go in there, everyone I played football with, and I'd go in, and I became Liam that doesn't drink, that doesn't do anything. I was yogi man, you know what I mean? And then I went to Spain, and I was with my friend, and they have these little beers called a Zorrito in San Sebastian, which is in the Basque Country. And I just fancied it in that heat, in that environment. And I had a Zorrito, and then I would have maybe one little Zorrito. It's like 2 mouthfuls of beer every night. And then I was like, okay, this is cool. And now I'm in total control. Like, I've probably not been drunk since before I became abstinent. I don't remember the last time I was drunk. I used to only go out to get drunk. And now it's like, if I fancy the taste, if it's an accompaniment to a meal, but it won't lead to me going, oh, I'm going to get rat-assed. You know, it's not got, I feel in such a good place from that abstinence that I'm like, I remember even when the World Cup was on, was it last year, the year before? And I went out with my mates. I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to have a drink with my mates tonight and see what happens and enjoy it. And I went out, and I only drink half beers, so I get a lot of stick for that off the lads as well, because that's seen as gay. And I'm like, it's Spanish beer, it's brewed to be drunk like that. So whatever. And me caring about what other people think is 10 years ago. So yeah, I went out, and I had one half drink, and then I was like, I just didn't fancy it. It's whatever my taste is saying to me, whatever my body's saying. Obviously, my body's really pure, so it rejects a lot of stuff like that. But then I was on lime soda for the night, and I still had a great night. They all got drunk. But it was just like, that's how I felt at the time. So I didn't feel the need to do it. But I still didn't, what's the word? I wasn't harsh on myself by saying, no, you're not having that. It's just like, I'm going to enjoy that. But some people, that's not possible. They cannot do that. That first touch of alcohol will lead them back to that negative space, whereas it's not going to happen for me. So,
Well, that's a little bit what I mean. I think you've done an awful lot of spiritual work on yourself, and you do it daily.
yeah,
So I believe you can rise above having to say, I am a drug addict, I am an alcoholic for the rest of your life, if you do very deep work like you've done on yourself. And so
yeah.
in some ways you're almost proving what I'm saying. I mean, obviously you're at a different level of addiction to other people were,
Yeah.
who are much stronger. And I'm not encouraging anyone to go out and have a drink, you know, or drugs. But I do think if you really profoundly do work, particularly, well, mainly spiritual work, you can almost like blast it out of your karma, I think. But we're talking about years of work.
Well, that's a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah. And now one of the spiritual things you do is cacao ceremonies. And I had the pleasure of coming to one, and I'd recommend anyone to do one of Liam's cacao ceremonies. And it was really weird in some ways, this feeling like you were almost drugged, but in a very kind of harmonious way. I mean, there felt like there was nothing negative about it at all. It was harmonious, natural, powerful, and it was with a group of people. So there was this sort of network of hearts going on.
Yeah.
And also I could see how it could attract addicts to come to that, because you are taking a substance, aren't you? And your consciousness changes.
Yeah.
So, do you do that for a lot of people with addictive behavior in particular?
We do get a lot of addicts or ex-addicts come into ceremonies and we get a lot of ex-addicts come into the yoga raves, because it's like an environment that they still want to be part of, but they know they can't go to an actual rave that's full of drugs, full of hedonism, full of alcohol, whereas they can come to a yoga rave and know that the strongest thing they're going to get served is cacao. You know what I mean? And it's a heart-opening, expansive medicine. And in the ceremonies, it just allows, like for me, cacao is very subtle. Like a lot of the other plant medicines, which cacao is a plant medicine, like ayahuasca, iboga, San Pedro, peyote, these, they're more psychedelic. They're more of a journey, but these are medicines that do heal a lot of addicts. A lot of addicts get healed from ayahuasca. It's got like some shamans have like an 80% success rate with crack and heroin addicts.
Wow, that's huge.
Massive. There's no rehab center in the world that has that. It's insane. Like in Peru, some of the government schemes are sending crack and heroin addicts to certain shamans to be healed, to go and do a month. It's like they're going to cause less problem if we invest in that than being in the city causing chaos.
God, amazing to know that's there. Yeah.
Yeah, but the cacao is just like you said. It's powerful, but it's subtle. It doesn't, like, you take ayahuasca, you're going on a journey for 8 hours that you have no control over. The spirit comes into you and is there to cleanse you, put you in really some traumatic situations for you to heal from. Whereas the cacao, it comes in. It's subtle, it's soft, it's beautiful, it's heart opening, it's expansive. You create this beautiful energy in the space, supportive energy where people can release emotions, can release negative characteristics, character defects of themselves. Things can come up and be processed in the ceremony. Cacao can be as powerful as ayahuasca, but it's up to you to do the work. The cacao's not going to do all the work for you. The cacao's going to take you to a certain point and then go, right, it's time for you to really delve into that emotion, delve into that childhood trauma, delve into that negative behavior that you've got. It's giving you the opportunity to do the work yourself, which in a way can be a lot more rewarding.
So what is it the medicine men do improve? I mean, is it something you could do with cacao, whatever they're doing with ayahuasca, or is that something very specific to ayahuasca?
No, it's the medicine. Ayahuasca, it's the specific medicine. It's very, very, it's strong. It's strong. It's like one of the most powerful psychedelics in the world. You go journeying, you get met by interdimensional beings. Like, you can get your life's message, you can get told all your traumas, you can be totally have an horrific trip and horrific journey where you feel like you've died, or you feel like you've made up your whole life, you feel like you've lost your mind. But those journeys, which are horrific, and I'll hold my hands up and say it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, ever, ever. But then I don't have any fear now in life because that's happened. I'm like, nothing to worry about. I had my soul ripped out and cut into tiny pieces and thrown through the galaxy and unplugged from the universe. Oh yeah, my car's been clamped. Or, you know what I mean? Simple things like that. Or, you know, something's happened. That's like, oh well.
So you've got perspective now, Liam.
Yeah. And you know, even when people die, I'm like, they've just gone back to wherever they were before. It's all right. Like, I actually feel a bit jealous that like, oh, they've got out of this world, which is a bit fucked up, especially at the moment, but it always has been. But everyone's just focusing on how it is now. But it always has been. So in a way, I'm like jealous of people going back to source energy, which is, you know, infinite possibility, infinite awareness, you know, and to choose another journey. It's like, I probably choose one at a more utopian planet next time.
Yeah.
Maybe just for one lifetime and then come back and learn some more stuff here.
So, yeah, so coming back to addiction, with the cacao ceremony, if someone was rolling drunk, would you let them come in, for example, to a cacao ceremony?
No, certainly not. No. You have to fast. You have to be clean of drinking drugs for at least 24 hours. You have to be clean of medication, like antidepressants, for a few days. There's apps. If someone come into my house drunk, I'd tell them to piss off. Yeah. So I'm not bringing anyone with that energy into the ceremonial space where other people are there to heal.
Yeah.
And some people might, but that's not happening on my watch.
Yeah. But do you think the actual ceremony helps people who have addictive problems?
100%, yeah.
And how, Liam? How?
Because it gives them a bit of stillness. It clears the mental agitation in the mind. It opens the heart. If we're all walking around with a fully opened heart, there is no addiction. You know, it goes. It's all the stuff that's surrounding your heart that's blocking it from being your true essence. Like, your true essence isn't an addict. Your true essence is a beautiful human being connected to what unity consciousness, who's sending love and beauty. But when it's all covered up and you're in this dark energy, you've got dark entities attaching to you. You're in pubs and clubs where there's a lot of dark energy, dark entities, and they're going, boom, he's available to jump into. You know what I mean? That's why I don't even like going in pubs and clubs anymore, because I feel the energy. Whereas you come into a cacao ceremony, if you're an addict and you've got a space, even if you're not an addict, like I had a guy who's a big kind of like, used to be a bouncer, fighter, drugs, everything, come into the space the other day, and they're massive in, you know, out there. They come into a tent, it all disappears. They're vulnerable, they're this little boy, and you go in and you will open the heart. And with that heart opened, it allows them to be softer when they go back outside. So for an addict, it gives them 4 hours to sit with themselves with a clearer mind and to really look into what is the darkness, what is the issues, what is the thing that's leading me to these negative behaviors. And to have 4 hours with a clearer mind to be able to do some of that work is a massive blessing for anybody.
Yeah. And I think this does come down to the heart of addiction in a way. It's the feeling of being separate, isn't it, from others? And when you can create real true connection, that need for addiction must start falling away.
Yeah, totally. You know, just through all practices, through yoga practices, through meditation, through going to ceremonies, cleaning your body, and then your body doesn't want that shit in it anymore. You know, the cleaner your body gets, the cleaner your consciousness gets, your mind gets, your body just will start to reject those things.
Well, that's wonderful, Liam. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, for our listeners, what would you say to some people who are addicted to substances that might be listening to this? Something they could do on a daily basis that would help them make steps towards overcoming this addiction? If those are the right words.
Take responsibility for your own actions to start with. Start seeing where your fault is. Get on a 12-step program immediately, and just pray to God for support and love and help. And just admit, I'm not controlling this. The more you speak to something and you offer it up and you ask for help, the help will come. So it's just get down on your knees, pray for the life that you want, and then it will start to manifest. But get down on your knees every day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I suppose this 12-step program give you daily things on top of that to do, don't they? But yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, the inventory that you have to write, the process, getting with the 12 steps as well, you get a sponsor. So you've got someone pushing you, you've got someone driving you, you've got other people around. You realize that when you start going into that world, you realize there's so many addicts, there's so many people suffering and struggling, but then there's also so much support available to you. You're sat at home, there's nothing I can do, I can't get out of this, there's nobody to help me, poor me, poor me. You make a phone call, you look online about meetings, realize, well, I don't know what it's like at the moment, but there'll be online meetings, probably, I would imagine now. It's all available there, but it's you get off your ass and do the work. Stop relying on everybody else to make you better, because it doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. You can only make yourself better. I'm pretty harsh. Get your shit together. Start making positive steps. Do something that makes you uncomfortable. Every day.
Yeah.
Telling your partner that you love them, buying them flowers, being nice, cooking a meal. Whenever you go and visit someone, have a gift. Simple things. Stop being selfish.
And then for our other listeners, Liam, who love someone who's an addict, and there's probably 4 or 5 people loving each addict, maybe more, maybe less. What can they also do on a daily basis in this subject?
Pray again. Stop trying to help them. Support them. Don't try and help them. And realize that you might have a part to play in their addiction by trying to help them. You can go to a meeting with them. They allow you to go if it takes that. I've took friends to meetings. If that's the first step that needs to happen, then go. And if other addicts aren't allowed in, I've pretended that I was, or other people I know have pretended to be an addict just to get the other person in the space. And then, stop trying to prop them up with money, I don't even know if it is love sometimes, because it can sometimes be attachment. It can sometimes be, a lot of people well, I'm trying to help, which makes me look like a great person. But actually, I'm doing the person a disservice by helping them, because they need to get down there. And you just, stay up here, don't go down there, Boom. Okay, now I can rise up. Which sounds horrific, sounds unkind from me, but that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah, I think in relationships, you're right. There is this symbiotic relationship going on. Obviously, with children, it's a slightly different matter, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but again, like we said about the families sending the kids to the priory, and there's no love there. It's like, someone else take care of that. I can't do it. You know what I mean?
No, I meant the children's of an addict. The other way around.
Yeah.
Slightly different.
But when you think of it on a cosmic level, that's the choice of the family that we chose to be born into. I chose to be born into a very violent family and see my mum getting knocked all over the place for years. I chose that environment, and now I realize why, and it's a blessing. And there's lots of things, like my mum's death cosmically happened for me to be doing the positive work that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if she hadn't died, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you right now.
So it's about taking responsibility for your life, not being a victim, and looking for the jewels in the crap, really, is what you're saying.
Totally. The crap is the jewels.
The crap is the jewels.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful, Liam. Thank you so much for being with us. And lastly, is the yoga rave online at the moment?
No, we've been doing some in-person events. We've got another one probably December. The cacaos are still in person.
Right.
They're all on my website. Everything's on the events page of my website, which is liambrowne.com. So just go over there and see what we've got going on. We've got a retreat in January in the Lake District. And we're just kind of like meandering, we're meandering through this swamp of shit to see where we can blossom up little lotus flowers for people to expand, for people to transform, but to people mainly to get out of fear. Your heart doesn't have fear. Open your heart. Your heart isn't scared of anything. And like I said, with ayahuasca, what's the worst thing can happen? I can die. Brilliant.
Next adventure.
You know what I mean? It's just like, just get out of that fear. Like, how do you think billions and billions of years of humans have survived? Like, we've all been breathing the same air for millennium after millennia. Just get out of the fear. Come to a cacao ceremony, come to a yoga rave, or hit me up. We've got one-to-one cacaos I do online. I do couples cacaos. I can bring cacao to you if you've got a group of people that want a cacao ceremony. So there's lots of options. Everything's on the website. Check it out.
Thank you so much, Liam, for being here. And it's really reassuring to know you're out there, you're offering all sorts of opportunities for people to rise up and, as you say, to lose some fear, to open their hearts in really beautiful methods you're offering in that place. So thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, and good luck with the podcast and everything that you're doing. You're doing amazing work as well.
Thank you, Liam.
Lots of love.
This has been a The Quantum Questions production. If you'd like to know more about The Quantum Questions, please go to the website www.thequantumquestions.com.